Welcome, Dr. James Beckett, Sports Card Insights, here for a recap episode. Thanks sponsors, Beckett Media, Beckett Grading, Beckett Authentication, ComC.com, Burbank Sports Cards, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, Heritage Auctions, Huggins and Scott Auctions, Topps, Upper Deck, and Panini, where this runs between 519 and 538. We're getting up there. If you've got ideas for episodes, when I do these recap episodes, it's an opportunity for me to reflect back and share any additional insights. And then I look back and I think, gee, I didn't cover some of this stuff. And so it gives me reflection points to figure out what I want to do next. But if you've got ideas, send them in, drjamesbeckett@gmail.com. I've got another listener question episode coming. Working on that as we speak. But first of all, anyway, here's the recap. 519, the first one, the dueling questions 2.0. I actually sat down with Jay Schwartz, Dr. Jay Schwartz, who was a fellow professor with me back in the old days at SMU, and we just kind of kept going. And he's a marketing professor, always encouraged me in that way, and we had a good time. That was worth sharing with you. 519A was listener questions. Again, you just have to listen to that. I don't break out each of the individual 5 questions, but give attribution where I can, where I'm supposed to or allowed to. But other than that, good questions and maybe not worth a whole episode in some cases. On the other hand, if you hear one of these listener question episodes and think, gee, can you go deeper into that? Can you amplify that? Happy to do that. 519B was the outtakes on sustainability from the virtual expo. And the virtual expo, I want to go to the real expo, which is in Toronto. So I'm hoping to do that. I don't know if it'll be this November or in May. But what we're seeing with these virtual shows is that there's really no substitute for being there. But if you can't be there, I think the content that is being released around the National and these other shows is a welcome development. Thank you for that. And this is what came out from that panel that Jeremy put together. 520, the recap, don't recap that. 521 and 522 are both outtakes on the National from 2 different hobby hotlines. And I put them together because I just thought that'll give y'all a chance to see that what comes up in Hobby Hotline it's not linear. It's live call-ins and chats. And what comes up is what comes up. And both of them dealt with similar topics, but in different ways, in 12, 14 minutes worth of excerpts from that. 523 was same thing with the Bernard Nomberg. Met him at the National. Good to see you, Bernard. And he had a Facebook Live group where he had me on. Happy to do that. But he was asking all the questions pretty much. But out of that longer time with his friends and group, I pulled out, again, 12 to 14 minutes of stuff that I think adds to our record here. 524 was the football dueling questions. The first time I did a topical dueling questions. David Lee, an excellent guy to do that with. He was on our team back in the day, a real football fan and expert. And so we did football dueling questions where the questions were not limited except to keep it to football. And I'm going to do that with basketball and hockey and some of these other things. I think that'll be a fun way to do it so that people who are interested in football can dive deeper. 524A was the Joe Orlando resignation episode and the repercussions of that. Just when I left my company, the company lives on. I was valuable, but not indispensable. Joe Orlando was valuable, but not indispensable. And we wish him well in his future endeavors. And I'm sure he's going to do great. A sharp guy and a lot of hobby knowledge. And I hope he gets involved in an appropriate way to help build our great hobby. 524B was the Giannis Antetokounmpo. I said superstar, but it even the superstar, maybe he's a megastar, maybe. He may be above a superstar. He was a superstar. Luka may be a megastar now based on what he did in the Olympics, single-handedly bringing his team along, and now with his Supermax contract. We'll see. But if it's about winning championships, getting to the semis of the Olympics, not good enough, and losing in the first round of the playoff, not good enough. So they're expecting Luka and Giannis to win championships, but only one team can win. And there's some great teams out there and teams being formed, even as we can see with the Lakers. They're not giving up on next year for sure. 525 was the tribute to the Gold family. Bruce is still around. Bruce, great guy, but he lost his brother and his mom and dad, and our condolences. It's been over some time, but Rich and I reminisced about that. Again, very worthy, especially wanted to do that of the week before the National. They were real mainstays at the Nationals and in the Chicago show and card shop scene. 526, final National Prep. I wasn't going to do that, and then all of a sudden I still was getting some questions, and I realized it was the night before the National, before I was going to leave, and I was going to be there on Wednesday. This was Tuesday. I thought, I think there's some things that haven't been covered. I listened to all these others, so what are my last thoughts? And even going through that and doing my inventory of what I was going to do, I messed up my screwdriver incident. That was not smart. And it cost me probably a couple hours. Again, landed safely that night, which not everybody got home that night. Not everybody was hale and hearty and ready to hit the ground running the next day. I was blessed to have that happen to me. I was tired though. 527 outtakes on grading. That was actually what John Newman invited me to that. He was having a discussion with the Pack to the Future guys. And that was in association with the Hobby Palooza. Again, a great idea there. And again, just some outtakes, but a lot of their questions, they were asking me about grading and coming at it from a different angle. So that's another 12 minutes there. 528, dueling questions with Jordan. Jordan's very enthusiastic. He's not my same personality type. He's very enthusiastic. I'm more analytical. And we got into some of those things. So I don't know that there's a lot of sports card insights, but there's more than one way to do hobby. And there's more than one way to trade cards. 529 was the key. I called it Keating questions because I thought, gosh, I've got like 5 questions from John Keating. Very thoughtful questions. He's now doing his own podcast with that 70s show, 70s sports card show. So it's everything from the 1970s. I listen to that. It's enjoyable. He's really going deeply down memory lane, but I was there in the 70s and he's capturing a lot of that. So again, back and forth with his questions. If you have enough outstanding questions, I'll do an episode just for your questions. As Torsten is coming up with some Torsten Bauer questions in this next segment. 529A was the tribute to Fred Reed, our editorial VP back in the day, the early years of Beckett Publication. He was fundamental to the success of the company. He really brought order and structure to that part of the company, allowing me to focus on what I really enjoyed doing. I think it's one of the secrets of not that my success is based on a lot of people helping me and me being able to do the things I do best and trusting other people to step up. And Fred certainly did. And he's untimely gone. He's worthy of a tribute. 529B, the outtakes from Hobby Hotline. That was the week before the National. Again, I'm distilling another hour and 15 minutes. It was the week before the National. And again, that's what's going to come up. And it'll be interesting. And I always say I have timeless episodes, but when you look back at the episodes next year, next month, 6 months from now, there's still hopefully some timeless value in there, evergreen. 530 was the 88 to 90, the Topps big baseball sets that came out with Rich Klein. I believe that was a failed experiment. It just didn't really work. Again, Topps had a habit of trying things for all. They didn't just do it 1 year, but they did it for 3 years, and it apparently didn't work. There's a fine line, and Rich and I will be talking about issues like this in the future, but there's a fine line when we were growing up between Topps having a test issue and an intended to be mainstream issue that didn't quite make mainstream. In other words, it wasn't scarce enough to be chased, but it was common enough to be easy but less desirable. So that's really what happened with Topps Big. 531 and some of the others that come up, there were the ComC hacks. That was an idea I had, and I just thought Mike Summer, the ideal person, the perfect choice to bounce off some of my theories and hear some of his about how to optimize the ComC experience. So there were 3 ComC hacks episodes. He put it all in one in his. Again, very cooperative. You can listen to his if you want to hear it in a seamless way. 532 was the speed sorting, one of the worst episodes I've ever done in terms of audio because it really needs to have video. And I'm still trying to figure out how I can, with an audio podcast, capture some of these things that are very visual. And maybe I can do some supplemental videos or come back to that. I'm looking for help on that, and it will come eventually. So thanks for your encouragement. I think there's some good ideas in there. I'm a really fast sorter, and I don't say I'm the fastest in the world, but I'm really fast, and it's because I do it the same way every time. And I have some things I've learned over many decades, and at least hundreds of thousands of cards, if not millions. 533, the card shop episode. Jordan, he's so excited for the hobby podcast that he has, opening a local card shop in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. He is going to have a fun shop. First base that I had with Wayne and Gervis back in the late 70s, early 80s. That was only fun for Brian Gray, who came in and was able to nab some of the undervalued gems that we put out. He was sharp, young. I don't know, he was a teenager. He probably was a teenager at that point. But we had a lot of fun, but we were just organizing cards, and Jordan's going to make it a lot of fun. So I'm glad he's doing that. Again, 534, the ComC hacks, talked about that. 534A and B were the National Aftermath. That was right after I got back, and I thought, well, I don't do one episode and go real fast. There's probably one episode talking in general. I can't go through every card that I bought because I bought a lot of miscellaneous cards, hard to organize. So I talked about what I bought in the one episode, and then logistics was a big part of the story and probably not a fun part of it in some of it. This part at the show was great, but getting there and getting back was not as much fun. 535, the IRS considerations with John Keating. Again, I did that. It's right after the National. With all this publicity, I'm telling you, when you're making headlines, the IRS is noticing. And when the IRS notices, their audit bells go off. Be sure you've got your documentation in case you get audited. And hopefully you'll come through that unscathed, as I have over many years. 536 was the episode with Rich. Always have fun with. Rather than doing one, we compared and discussed 74 and 75 Topps baseball. Rich is just wonderful to do those with. A lot of fun. I have my type of reminiscences and he has his, and we blend them together. 537, the ComC hacks, the last part with Mike Summer. Again, fun to do that with him. I can't remember what was in each one, but I think there were some nuggets in each one. And like I said, if you want to listen to Wax Pack Hero, Mike, he has it all in the sequence that we discussed it. And then 538 finally was the outtake episode. I actually was on Brett McGrath's Stacking Slabs. He's a sharp guy. It's a lot of fun. This was his show. And I thought there's, again, like I say, 12 minutes worth of stuff out of an hour or 45 minutes or whatever I was on his show. These other people interviewing me have a way of drawing things out that haven't been discussed. And when I look back, I think that's worthy of addition. So that's 4 weeks, or that's finishes up at episode 538. And thanks for your support. If you've got questions or episode ideas, drjamesbeckett@gmail.com. And thank you, everyone. Be back again tomorrow with another episode.